Modern political debates usually force us to choose between left and right, or democracy versus communism. But these labels fail to map the actual ideological divides of Western civilization. When you apply them to history, the directions scramble. Writing in the early 20th century, the German philosopher Oswald Spengler proposed a different framework. He argued that the real conflict exists between deeply ingrained national characters rather than political parties. Spengler traced the modern Western mind back to two competing historical archetypes, the British and the German. The British archetype is the Viking. Isolated on an island and secured by the ocean, the English evolved a culture that valued extreme personal independence, global exploration, and free trade economics. They developed a stateless society of private individuals focused on commercial success. The German archetype is the knight. Trapped in the center of Europe without natural borders, Prussia faced constant threats of invasion. Survival required rigid military discipline, strict authoritarian organization, and an unquestioning sense of duty. These geographic origins established two incompatible operating systems for Western life. One measures the success of human life through the accumulation of private wealth, while the other measures it through service to the collective whole. The British developed a philosophical framework known as empiricism. This is a highly practical, sensory view of existence, where reality is defined by what can be observed, touched, and measured. Viewing the universe as a collection of physical material makes it easy to objectify it. Abstract concepts like time and human effort are reduced to commercial commodities, each carrying a specific tradable price tag. The Germans adopted rationalism and idealism. In this view, abstract thought, spiritual unity, and ideas hold more value than physical matter. Reality is something to be reasoned out and organized, rather than bought and sold. Spengler compared the Germans to the ancient Greeks, intellectual, driven by absolute concepts, and obsessed with inner unity. He compared the British to the ancient Romans, highly pragmatic, focused on establishing systems of global trade and exercising raw material power. A nation's foundational philosophy dictates its output. Over the centuries, Britain engineered a culture optimized for the creation and protection of commerce. Germany engineered a culture optimized for the realization of ideas. The British concept of negative liberty demands the absence of state interference, leaving the individual room to pursue private wealth. This results in a fragmented population of isolated competitors. Conversely, the German positive liberty finds freedom through subordination, serving a greater unified whole. The ultimate expression of positive liberty was the Prussian state. Here, the group is paramount, every citizen a willing servant to the national structure. The British optimized their state to protect and serve the desires of the individual. The Prussians optimized the individual to ensure the survival and glory of the state. When we examine modern economics through this lens, capitalism is the purest expression of the British Viking ethic. It relies on piracy, aggressive free markets, and the assumption that private greed produces the public good. Spengler defined true socialism as the Prussian knight ethic, an authoritarian structure built on duty to the community rather than personal enrichment. Spengler dismissed Karl Marx entirely. He argued that Marx was an English thinker in disguise, viewing the world through the British lens of material economics. Marxism retains the material focus of capitalism, merely reassigning the spoils of trade from the rich to the workers. The system swaps the roles of robbers and robbed, without addressing the underlying obsession with wealth. True Spenglerian socialism eliminates the concept of work as a tradable commodity. Work becomes a strict civic duty. Societal rank is determined by a person's achievement and public service, never by the size of their private bank account. The Anglo-American model of extreme individualism and free trade capitalism now defines the global landscape. Yet Spengler warned that this victory is unsustainable. A culture built purely on materialism, endless consumption, and negative liberty eventually exhausts its own spiritual resources. We see the symptoms of this exhaustion today. Communities atomize, shared purpose dies. The populace fractures into a mob of competing egos, lacking any unifying concept beyond personal gain. We have to evaluate the ultimate purpose of the societies we live in. Is a nation merely a deregulated economic zone designed to facilitate private wealth for isolated consumers? Or is it an organic community that requires sacrifice, duty, and subordination to the common good?